Hey guys, how's it going? 8 Byte Brian back again for another 8 Byte podcast. Sorry this one's coming out a little bit late. Just been a busy month over here at the King of Retro channel. So I definitely got a lot that I want to talk about this month. I want to get into the new NES Mini that was announced just earlier this past month or late July with San Diego Comic-Con. I want to talk about some of the mixed reviews that we're seeing about No Man's Sky coming out and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's jump right into it. All right, so first off the bat, I want to talk about No Man's Sky. This was a game that I originally saw when I was working at a video game store, and it blew my mind when it first got announced. This game to me looked like everything that Mass Effect did correctly, especially Mass Effect 3 and 2. I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. And it looked like it expanded on it and kind of made almost like this Mass Effect Skyrim world. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is amazing. Like, it looked visually incredible. The fact that you could explore a seamless universe, you could build your own ship, paint your own ship, make your own, flagship, fly to different planets, discover new plants, discover new animal life, and just give you a whole new way of being able to free realm explore a game like never before. Like if you like games like Fallout or Skyrim or things like that, where you feel like you can really take control of your character's destiny in the game, then this is a game that I think appealed to a lot of those MMORPG and free world, open world game players. So to me, it was pretty much hands down the most impressive game that I saw to come out for any of the next-gen consoles. Now, myself, I'm still not a next-gen gamer. The only stuff that I play that is next-gen, I play on Steam. I really haven't been that wowed by a lot of stuff for PS4 or Xbox One, and that says a lot because I'm a huge Fallout fan. I didn't even get the new Fallout because it just did so underwhelmingly. And with the Xbox One, the only thing that could really bring me over to that would have been the new Halo and the new Gears of War that's coming out. So that might possibly get me, because I'm a pretty big gearhead myself. But anyway, on the No Man's Sky. So like I was saying before, it's this game where there really isn't an objective. And I think that kind of rubs people the wrong way, because most people want to play a game to where you're prodded in a certain direction. You want to have an objective you complete, and you want to feel like the hours that you log onto the game actually are worth something. And I don't think people have ever encountered a game like this before, whether it's Destiny, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's Skyrim. Sure, you can log 200 plus hours in Skyrim, but they generally all meant something. You either beat the game or completed a whole bunch of side quests, or got your skill tree branched out to like some insane branches to where you have like 60 different levels of crafting or something. And with No Man's Sky, that doesn't really seem to be the case. You can craft very rudimentary, but it is there, so that way you can repair your ship if like your fusion core breaks down. Health items, better mods to this mining laser that you have, which is really your only weapon to start out with. It very slowly recharges, and you have to mine certain materials in order to recharge the battery. And then you have to also look for other things like copper and diamonds that will help your ship's life support systems and functions to operate on the ship, as well as fuel. One of the most interesting things about the game is that it boasts that there are over 18 quintillion different planets, which is unbelievable. The fact that they can have this constantly growing, I'm not sure what they call it, but it's like this constantly growing, like, world generator, like where you have certain games to where you have, like Skyrim and stuff like that, to where yeah, the world seems infinite, but eventually there's a boundary. You always get to the top of that mountain range to where you can't go any further. And it's pretty simple to where it just constantly keeps pre-rendering data over data. So there technically is a fixed world, but to you it doesn't seem like it because it's just constantly being rendered so much in the background that it seems limitless. So I tend to kind of question the 18 quintillion planets because I mean, has that been proven? Is there any benchmark for that? Is anybody really going to count and quantify the planets? I think that there's a lot, but I don't think I have a feeling that number's pretty off. Um, anyway, regardless from that, some of the more interesting facts of the game is that every planet is supposed to be different. So that's pretty amazing, that you can go to every single planet, and maybe not encounter another player, which I know a lot of people are complaining about, that there's not really an online presence of this. People even land on the same planet at the same time. And, the world is just so big and vast and diverse that they can't even find themselves there. Um, and I think this is kind of either people are getting exactly what they asked for and they don't understand that that's what happened, or people don't know what they're getting themselves into. And they just think, oh, this is another big box title that GameStop's telling me to push and release and pre-order and, grab now, and everybody's playing it. So, I have to get it. And then you get it and you're like, oh, this isn't like Destiny. This isn't like Call of Duty. And it's like, well, of course not. One thing that I have to say about the developers of No Man's Sky is that I don't really see why they're getting so much harsh criticism. I mean, while the game can seem to be boring to some, I think that all depends on your personality. If you're the type of person that just likes to have a relaxing play experience and you really like the exploration part of it, then this is probably a game that's right up your alley. But right from the get-go, No Man's Sky was not really touted as something that was going to be a big MMO game. I mean, they showed that there would be dogfights in outer space, but it's not like it was something like Battlefield where it was going to be happening all the time. No one ever claimed that. There was never a claim of when you're going on other planets that you're constantly going to be fighting off other players online who are trying to, go after your resources. So I think that this game is getting a lot of unfair criticism. I think it is trying to spread itself a little too thin, however, because eventually the game's going to become transparent to where, okay, you have 18 quintillion planets. The average player, trying to get to the center of the galaxy, which is, I guess, one of the objectives, if you can call it that. It's not really an objective. It's just something that's suggested for you to do to try to travel that in as few light years as possible. But eventually, you're just going to have these puzzle pieces that kind of fit together, and it'll just be like a different, dinosaur or animal with a different spike and a different spot. But it's going to be the same. After a while, you're going to notice and be like, wait a minute, that's just the thing from the planet I was at an hour ago, mixed with the other bird or plant or tree from the other planet I was just on. And once people start realizing that, the veil of what is purported with this game of having such limitless creativity, you're really going to be able to see through that. So I definitely think that is deceptive. That that they're really touting that as one of the main features, because I mean, come on, you can't honestly have 18 quintillion planets and have no race of species be exactly the same. They're just not expecting people to like go over like 1,000 planets or like 10,000 planets. So I think that they feel, that they covered their asses in that regard. But I think that, the game is a good game. I just think that it's getting a lot of unnecessary criticism because people don't know what to make of it. If you don't like a game that's slow paced, if you'd rather have something that's a first person shooter or more action, more interaction with other players, play the new Fallout. Go back and play Skyrim, play Destiny. You know, that's probably more your thing. If you don't like something that takes a lot of searching and crafting and time like that, then you're probably going to hate this game. Overall, I unfortunately feel that this game is going to fall on its face. I think it's a very ambitious move, you know, with what they tried to do with the hardware and the software, and just make it a never-ending world that you could constantly, you know, expand on this sandbox from. But I just don't see it being sustainable. I see that, you know, you're going to have 10% of people who were originally on board at day one are going to stay on, you know, 6 months from now. And the rest of the people are just, you know, within 30 days are going to be like, I don't get this. This is stupid. I'm not doing anything. It takes forever to mine. When I mine, I have to recharge the gun. I have to recharge my ship. You know, I went to another planet. There's nothing to do. I mine. I log animals. I log plant species. What the hell? What am I supposed to interact with? And I think that's going to be the failing. I think that framework wasn't set up strongly enough at the beginning launch of the game, and you know, I think that's what's causing you know, people to stray away from this and for the game to be kind of weak in the knees. So, you know, we'll see. I hope that they can tweak it, and maybe it'll grow stronger as the months go on, and maybe this will catch on. I'd like to see new creative ideas come from studios, you know, that break the mold of, you know, World of Warcraft, or, you know, I hate to keep repeating myself, but Skyrim or stuff like that. You know, do something new instead of putting out the same old Assassin's Creed every year, instead of putting out the same Battlefield, instead of putting out the same Call of Duty. So I think that's why people were so super excited, like I was when I first saw it, you know, even debuted and teased, is people want something different, and you need to listen to gamers and just stop regurgitating the same formula over and over again. It makes money, but in the long run, you know, you're going to lose money because people are going to shy away from these development studios like Treyarch and Activision, and are just going to say, you know what, I want to play something new, like, you know, when Dishonored came out, and that totally shook up the framework of something different. So in that regard, I think No Man's Sky is a success, but I think it just got pushed a little bit too early and too soon for sale after development. A little bit better time in development, creating a little bit better of an online presence. I mean, it's good that you're alone, and that's kind of cool throughout the game, but maybe not that alone. Don't make everything so tedious, you know. Make it have a little bit quicker pace, that maybe, you know, the stuff to recharge your mining tool is a little more common. Have more enemies than just the drones that guard the planet's resources to interact with. And just give people more activities. You know, I don't think that kills the spirit of the game. I just think that you know, if anything, that does nothing but enhance it. So we'll see. Hopefully this game will continue to succeed and be popular in the future. Alright, so switching gears a little bit, let's talk about Suicide Squad for a moment. Now, this is a movie, as if many of you aren't aware, this is supposed to be an alternate DC universe where the commissioner, I actually do not remember her name at the moment, she works for like a secret intelligence agency like for Washington, and what she does is she recruits the worst of the worst in prisons and commutes their sentences for having them go in and do undercover you know, like heists or like data scavenging or even assassinations that the government doesn't want to get their hands dirty. So they own them. If they step out of line, they will not hesitate to kill them. They will not hesitate to say, you know, we wipe our hands clean of this. You are acting of your own accord. We have no association with you, whatever. And they, you know, the people on the Suicide Squad, you know, run the risk of, you know, dying, but also, you know, getting their sentences shortened, you know, and being able to be out of prison and, you know, I guess do what comes naturally. Now, Suicide Squad has gotten a lot of bad reviews lately. You know, mainly from the critics. You know, Rotten Tomatoes right now has this rated, you know, 26%, so certified bomb on Rotten Tomatoes, and 68% by fans. I myself, when the movie came out, I was interested, and unfortunately, I have to say that the reason I was interested is also the same reason that I was disappointed, and that's because of Jared Leto's Joker. He looked incredible, in all the trailers that I saw. When he's laying on the floor and he has that pattern of knives surrounding him, and the chick that plays Harley, really cool for this universe. I I really really liked her a lot, and the chemistry really seems to be there for most of the characters, and it didn't need for something to be canon. I didn't really care what DC universe this came out of. It just looked like a fun movie. And I was really intrigued by this form of the Joker because I wanted to know what universe he came from. What tie-in does he have to all the other Jokers and the other Batmans and things like that, and just look at his psychology and see how that affects everything. But a lot of people are complaining, because they're saying, that the plot just isn't there. It just doesn't make any sense. That the action scenes are weak. The fact that it doesn't connect to the rest of the DC universes, and to me, I have an issue with that because I don't think that Suicide Squad might not be a great movie, but I definitely think it's a passable movie. And I think that people need to understand that this is not intended to connect to the to the rest of the DC universe. This is supposed to be a separate universe in and of itself. One thing I really didn't like, even though a lot of other people would probably disagree with me otherwise, is I don't like Will Smith playing Deadshot. He just he's just, his day is done as far as acting is concerned. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for that in the comments with some diehard Will Smith fans, but he doesn't mesh. Like I look at him and I cannot see Deadshot. I just still see the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or I see Will Smith from Men in Black. And it's just that old corny style of his of acting from like the Wild Wild West or whatever, and I really think they could have picked somebody better to do Deadshot. So I think that's a real failing. Overall, I think that the movie looks good. Personally, in my opinion, I don't understand why it's getting so much negativity. I think the worst part about it is the fact that Jared Leto doesn't get enough screen time. There's only, I think, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes of him, on screen. You get more of this weird, like, witch goddess that appears, and she's from another dimension, and, she's the real threat that the Suicide Squad have to go after, and I think there's even some hint of where she can, like, bring Doomsday into this dimension or Darkseid or something. It's very convoluted and confusing, and she's just a weak main villain. I really can't get behind her. It doesn't make sense because the DC universe, aside from characters like Shazam and stuff like that, they don't really operate in the realm of magic. So seeing like Harley Quinn and the Joker and everybody else like go up against someone who's like a sorceress, that doesn't make any sense. So as far as that, I can understand why it got criticism, but overall, I still think that it's a decent movie, and if nothing else, aside from Will Smith, I think the character development's great, and I would love to see Leto and the girl who played Harley Quinn, even merge into like. Into like the new Batman series or the new Superman series, see them really cross over with other universes. I think that'd be fantastic. I think there's a lot of room for them to grow and really develop the series. And I think again, it's another film that's really gotten a lot of unnecessary hate. All right, now moving on. Another interrelated topic. I actually want to talk about Rotten Tomatoes a little bit, just quickly here myself, because a lot of movies that I notice that come out, they get really decent ratings by the fans. And I tend to believe the audience score a lot more than I believe some of these hackneyed critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, because a lot of them are solid, movie reviewers like Leonard Maltin and stuff like that. Although I do think Maltin's gotten a bit senile in his old age, and I don't think he can tell a good movie from a bad movie if his life depended on it, but that's a whole nother story. Um, I see things like Batman versus Superman. I see things like, the new Ghostbusters. Sorry, not going to rant and rave about that, promise. Suicide Squad. And I see them getting torn apart, by by the by the critics, like Batman versus Superman, Suicide Squad, and Batman versus Superman. It wasn't a terrible movie. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I don't think it was a movie that was a bomb. It was maybe like a C minus, a C at best, somewhere between like a D plus and like a C. Because I think a lot of areas of the movie didn't make sense to where, Batman doesn't have any problems with practically killing people now. Just how fast the movie went, the dual Martha references, a lot of the very, very poor action scenes, the fact that you knew everything that was going to happen in the movie when you even got to the theater. I honestly didn't even like the fact that they brought Wonder Woman into it. I would have rather just the movie been about Batman versus Superman. You didn't need to bring Doomsday in. You didn't need to tie anything else in. You could have maybe teased something at the end in the credits or something like that. But, I think that's kind of what caused the movie really to fumble. They should have really focused on, The Dark Knight Returns and showed how Batman really is quite capable of stomping the Man of Steel, regardless of what anybody says. Batman plus prep time wins every single time. I don't care who he fights. He's the only person without superpowers that's, dodge Darkseid's, Omega Beam. So that's, like, ridiculously impressive, the fact that he doesn't have superpowers and is able to do that. And, Superman's just, an overpowered jerk. He just got lucky, landed on Earth, and oh, hey, look at that. I can absorb yellow sunlight, and I just happen to be kick-ass when I do this. And it's like, really? It's like if you were under a red sun or something, you'd be just a normal person. Like, nobody would care, But anyway, getting a little off topic here. My whole point with that is that Batman vs. Superman got a similar rating. I think it was like a 58% or like a 48% by Rotten Tomatoes. And but again, on the audience side, it got like between like 60 to 75, and then you see a movie like Ghostbusters that gets rated like 85 to 90, and you see the fans rating that at like 50, 40%. And I don't think Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of the critics there are too corporately sponsored and endorsed. And you also have a lot of people like from Huffington Post and other external resources that, I think they're not the most reputable movie reviewers. They're just like little no-town vloggers and bloggers and people that you've never heard of. So it really convolutes the reviews. I think that if you just stick to people who have are in like the New York Post, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the San Diego Chronicle, things like that, I think you can get a much better feel than when you have, hundreds of people spouting their little worthless opinions in there that don't really know shit about reviewing a movie. Because it doesn't make any sense when you see a jackass piece of crap like Ghostbusters, certified fresh. And the people who went to go see it are like, are you kidding me? This movie sucked. And then they're like, oh, well, Batman vs. Superman sucked. But they're like, no, that was actually pretty good. And like Suicide Squad sucked. And people are like, no, it doesn't. We liked it. So, I don't know, man. I think that... use your own judgment. I do not rely on Rotten Tomatoes, that much. Um, and if you think a movie's going to look cool and you want to go see it, go see it. But realize that these people on, Rotten Tomatoes, they just have nothing but ad funding and funding from Sony, and Cinemax or Hollywood or whatever. And, their interests are not in objectively critiquing the movie. Their interest is that at least 50% of them, I would wager, are just, getting a paid endorsement, to be like, oh yeah, I thought this movie was good, or at least to not say negative things about the movie, and that way, the movie can continue to be certified fresh, and you can sell your Ecto Cooler bullshit, and you can sell your Verizon plans or what have you, and that's the only reason that something like Ghostbusters, which anybody with half a brain can see is just such a lame duck of a film, is getting such high scores when it really should not be the case at all. So, I think that a lot of people, I don't know how, but just, need to really come against Rotten Tomatoes, find another resource, and just stop using this site. It's very biased. It's very biased, and it's ruining the opinions and the success of a lot of decent films that are coming out because of it. All right, so now let's take a quick second and hop sides here again and talk about the new NES Mini that has been announced. And it has been announced that it's going to come out with 30 preloaded games, and it's going to MSRP for $59.99 and will come out on November 11th. And there's a list of all 30 of the games, which I'm sure that most of you have already heard by now. And they are Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3, The Legend of Zelda, Donkey Kong, Metroid, Kirby's Adventure, Super Mario Brothers 2, Dr. Mario, Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, Balloon Fight, Donkey Kong Jr., Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. That surprised the hell out of me that they put that on there. Excite Bike, Ice Climber, also very surprised that that got put on there. Kid Icarus, Mario Brothers, Star Tropics, Bubble Bobble, Castlevania, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, Final Fantasy, Galaga, one of my all-time favorite games, Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius, Mega Man 2, Ninja Gaiden, Pac-Man, Super C, and Tecmo Bowl. That is an unbelievable deal to get so many good games on a little portable system that's really like, it's so small you can fit it in your hand, and that you can hook up the external controllers that they have for it. I believe you can buy extra controllers separately. They have the Wii U plug-in ports. One thing that kind of annoys me is that, I guess if you use it with your with the Wiimote Plus, you can have wireless connectivity, but I think they should have had that be standard. Come on, it's 2016. But I got a question the other day about, do I think that the NES Classic Edition is going to be a staple in living rooms in the future? And that's from a very good friend of mine, Travis, who has an awesome channel at the Hibiki TMD. So I definitely recommend you giving that a look. Definitely take your time, check that out. If you like what you see, definitely drop my boy a subscription there. But no. I absolutely do not see this being a staple because there's no expandability to it. I understand why a lot of the old black box titles are on here because they're Nintendo only, where they have the licenses and the rights to it. So it's very easy for them, with stuff like Ice Climber and stuff like that. They don't have to, fight to buy the rights or pay to use the rights to a game like Contra or something like that. Really surprised they didn't include Tetris on there, but I guess they do not own the rights to that, which surprises me. But no, no. I mean the Wii U sales have been doing abysmally. The 3DS and the 2DS was almost an outright failure. The 3DS is, gasping for air in its old age and is really on its way out the door, especially with the new Nintendo NX coming out that's going to all but just boot that thing to the curb, seeing as how it's going to be a portable system um, in and of itself. But this is just a quick cash in. This is just Nintendo needs money. Nintendo probably overspent their budget. As you'll see in the upcoming months for advertising for the Nintendo NX as they go into 2017 and get ready to release it. Um, the economy is still very poor all around, and this is just something that Nintendo saw that they could quickly cash in for casuals. This is not meant for collectors. This is not meant for hardcore gamers. This is just meant for the average everyday person that's like, hey, cool, I remember Mario Brothers. I remember Metroid. I can just hook this up. I don't have to go hunting around dirty flea markets or go on eBay and, get raked over the coals on prices for games. It's just ready to go. While it is better than well, good lord, it's light years better than I don't remember the name of the maker of the there was a Sega Genesis console that came out with like infrared controllers and stuff, and it's absolutely horrible. The flashback consoles did well, like the flashback 1 and 2, but I see it being nothing more than that. Like, it's great that you have these retro titles on here. But one thing that people don't understand is that with retro gaming in and of itself, it's a microcosm. To us who are in the community, who watch each other's YouTube channels, who watch Cinemassacre, who watch Pat the NES Punk, who go to gaming conventions, sure, stuff like Atari, stuff like Nintendo, it's very relevant to us. Like, we think it's very hip, it's very now, it's very on the forefront of things. But really, retro is turning a corner with GameCube, with PS2, with Dreamcast. That is what's becoming the new age of retro, and you have a generation of people where the NES games are a curiosity, with latter generations of the millennials and like the Generation Y people, and they're curious as to the history of it. Like, oh, cool. Look at this funny little pixelated Mario guy. Like, I know him, and so they play it out of a curiosity. But there's not a lot of real staying power to it because their social circle, is all interconnected through media, online games, and that's where they're going to navigate to. So people say, well, how come Mario Maker did so well? Well, it did so well because it's a social online, presence to where you can upload what you created, and also they upscaled the graphics. So while you can make it look like 8-bit stuff, people still want to look at how Super Mario World looked, or like the more smooth graphics. Even games like Shovel Knight, sure, they play like an 8-bit game, but it's very much a next-gen game for a next-gen console. So you really have to see beyond the curve and see that, quote-unquote, retro gaming is changing. And Nintendo is, within the next 5 years, I know this is going to shock a lot of people, but within the next 5 years, you are not going to see a focus on regular NES. Nintendo is eventually going to become the new Atari of the retro gaming world. In other words, where people will respect the history of it, but it's getting to that point where it's getting to be a dinosaur. The same thing with like Genesis is kind of almost there now. But yeah, I think that interest in the NES is just fading. It's a curiosity, and people are developing homebrews for it. So I think that's keeping interest alive. But you see with the homebrews, there are a lot of like modern titles that you wouldn't expect on the NES. So I think that fascination with it is dropping away in and of itself, because if not, why would you see people trying to make a Dragon Ball game to put on, you know, the NES, or try to port over, like a JRPG and convert that to an 8-bit format? It's because there's a curiosity there, because it's still kind of hip, but it's nothing more than that. So the NES Classic Edition, after it gets released within a year, everyone will have completely forgotten about it, because they've made no way for you to download new games onto it, from like the Wii Shop or something, which easily could have been done if they'd have just made it like a Raspberry Pi, or some type of NES emulation software inside like that, or even just the area to put your SD card. But, Nintendo's so protective of their licenses that they would never let that happen, and probably were afraid that, people would rip ROMs from like stuff that they don't own the licenses to, and then, they'd be held accountable for it or something, just like how they're taking down, all those, the scans of Nintendo Power and everything. Nintendo's a very, very, very paranoid company. So, yeah, I think this is a short-sighted product, and 6 months to a year, nobody will give a damn about this thing. I think it's fun. I think it's great. If you want it, go out, buy it, have fun with it. But expect it to be collecting dust within a year. All right, and very quickly, I also want to talk about the second Rogue One Star Wars trailer that came out. And this is very, very exciting. I am very excited to see everything that I saw in this new trailer, and it looks fantastic. I cannot wait for this to come out in theaters. This is a movie I'm definitely going to go see, and obviously the biggest reveal that everybody found out about this is that Darth Vader is definitely revealed in the trailer. So Darth Vader will be in the new Rogue One movie. He will probably have a very small part from what I've heard. He's not going to have a very large part or very much screen time. I think that can also be safe to assume that Palpatine will be in the movie, and I believe that is Palpatine that we are seeing in that Bacta tank with the Royal Guards. I really like the direction that this is going, where you're seeing, that blind guy, I don't know his name, and how he like attacks people. And he's kind of like a Force-sensitive user, I think. That's where they're going to go in that direction of, like, he's like, everything is as the Force wills it, and he just senses where people are and attacks them with that staff. I really hope that we're going to see Maz Kanata again in this movie, because this would be a perfect role for her to go into some of her backstory, and, maybe how she got a hold of, like, Luke's lightsaber and things like that. And just showcase other people that are Force sensitive. You don't have to showcase people who aren't necessarily Jedi. I also think that we are going to see with the main heroine in the film. I definitely believe that we are going to see her turn to the dark side. I think before the film is out, that she will move on to the dark side and will be a antagonist against the Rebel Alliance, especially in the scene where you see her walking out on a platform towards a TIE fighter. Obviously, she's not going to try to have a face-off with a pistol against a TIE fighter. That's ridiculous. So that kind of tells me that she had an inside connection with some of the, perhaps the Dark Forces, and they're there to pick her up. I really think that, there's a good reason for that. I think that she's walking out of that platform by herself, and I think that she has maybe betrayed the rest of her team, and then is being picked up by whoever is in that TIE fighter. Because if you remember from the first trailer, if you fight long enough, what will you become? And she doesn't seem very trustworthy to begin with. So I think we're going to see a turn with her, and maybe she'll be one of the officers, in the Empire on the dark side in the future. But overall, the movie looks great, and I really hope that this is where they kind of end it with the trailers. I'm kind of getting sick of trailers revealing too much. So at this point, I say this is enough. You don't need to show any more footage than what you've already shown. Um, Maybe mix it up with a bit from the first one and the second one, but beyond that, you're going to give everything away. I mean, I don't even think they should have told people that Vader was going to be in this. I don't understand the point of that. Or if you do, wait until after Thanksgiving. Wait later on and then build up that hype right before you release it. That makes more sense to me. Because it kind of kills the fun of the movie. It takes the surprise out of it. But overall, I think it looks great. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to see it. All right, and last but not least, I did want to touch again on some more news about Pokemon Go. And this is more so about just what I've experienced with playing the game, and how I feel that that the game has been tweaked, and how that has either benefited the game or detracted from the game. I think with the updates that Niantic has put in place recently, they're really trying to squeeze every drop of milk that they can out of this cash cow. The fact that now more Pokemon, escape or run away more frequently when you try to capture them with your Pokeballs. The fact that the little footsteps meter is gone now, so you don't really know where rare Pokemon are, and it's just a haphazard guess as to oh well, maybe it's over here. And before, you at least kind of had a good idea of where you could go to find that Pokemon that you were looking for. And the fact that with some of these Pokemon, like with Magikarp, in order to evolve your Magikarp, it takes over 400 Magikarp candy. That is frigging ridiculous. There's no reason that you should have to, you don't actually have to catch 400 Magikarp, but you need to catch 150 because you get 3 each time you capture one, so give or take a little over 100. But that's still a lot, and especially if they're not guaranteed to be in the same area over and over again, but you will catch, crap loads of, Rattatas and Pidgeys, and it's just stupid. I mean, I think that for most Pokemon, in order to evolve them, maybe make it 25 candies for each, because otherwise it just takes too damn long when the assortment of Pokemon that you put out in the world for people to find is just terrible. It's just terrible. Also, make the Pokestops better for people to find better stuff at. Aside from Pokeballs and stuff like that, let people find incense, let people find lures, or if not that, make it an easier way for you to earn coins, because now that's all that it seems like the update has done. It's just that it makes you lose more of your items like potions and Pokeballs, so they want you to spend real world money instead of getting stuff for free, which I think is a real dick move. I mean, Niantic has a fantastic game here. It's going to make them a lot of money, and people are spending money on it regardless before this update came out. There's a park that I go to where I see 20 lures all the time. But I mean, I go there anytime during the week, and there's at least 2,000 people walking around at this park where maybe 20 people used to go before Pokemon Go came out. So people are going to spend money regardless. So don't, grab people by the neck and try to throttle every last penny that you can out of them, like shaking them upside down like a high school bully getting somebody's lunch money. Lay off a little bit. Make it a little bit easier for, players to buy incense to attract that legendary Pokemon or that hard Pokemon that you're having a hard time finding. And even the thing, I understand when you're driving where, they say that you're going too fast. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because no, you should never friggin' play the game when you're driving, because that's crazy. You could kill somebody. But I think if you're a passenger, and you have it on, and you hit the thing that says I'm a passenger, then why can't you hatch your eggs faster. They're like, oh, it's cheating, and it's like it's not cheating. Any other RPG or whatever, you'd grind or you'd find ways to kind of like get around it and be like, hey, if you do this, you can do that faster, and it's not cheating. It's just players got smarter. Like there's any number of games where people figure out a hack that while you're not hacking a server or anything per se, just you find a way to do things quicker. And in some of these instances where the eggs take like 10 to 20 miles to hatch, that's crazy. Like I play the game very casually, like 1 to 2 times a week. I don't have the time to walk 10, 15 miles. I turn it on for like 15 minutes to half an hour, and then all I'm finding are like Rattatas and Pidgeys or not the right Pokemon that I need. That's annoying. Don't make the bar so high where I gotta find 100 of something to evolve a Pokemon, or I find a legendary Pokemon and then it's just, it's at a horrible attack level and is essentially useless. So, Niantic, just leave the game alone. You got a good thing. Don't screw it up. And I think that it's one of the best things to come out that I've ever seen, and it's probably going to be around another 6 months, possibly a year, before people are finally burnt out on it. So, guys, that wraps it up for this episode of the 8byte Podcast. As always, make sure you tweet out to the 8byte Podcast hashtag. Let me know what you want to hear about. I don't just want to hear myself talk or what's in gaming or retro news. Let me know what's on your mind. What do you want to hear about? You want to hear about wrestling? Do you want to hear about games, movies, politics? Well, no, nobody wants to hear about politics, but you get what I'm saying. Let me know what's on your mind. I'd love to hear what you think, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Hey guys, if you like the video that you just watched, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And if you do the Facebook or Twitter thing, follow me at #KingOfRetro. See you next time.